Since the white man landed in South Africa, the struggle between white and black has dominated its history. The first whites arrived as Europe was seeking quicker trade routes to the spices of Asia round Africa. In 1652, the Dutch set up the first successful white settlement in Cape Town to supply trading ships. It was the start of the longest uninterrupted white rule in Africa.
The thing you have to remember about Africa is that most of it was colonized only in 1880s and then decolonized in the 1960s. The whole edifice of traditional African structures was ripped down, and there was not enough time really to construct a new edifice to replace it with. Now, if you look at South Africa, it is the one exception on the African continent, because whites arrived much before, in the 1650s earlier on, and then in the 1820s in great numbers, and therefore colonization had time not merely to destroy but also to create.
Like all Africa, South Africa too played out European rivalries. The British Empire acquired the Cape Colony in 1814. The Dutch and French settlers, who became known as Afrikaners or Boers, didn't like being under the British yoke and took off northwards on their great trek.
The Boers wanted to be left alone to deal with the so-called natives, the black population, as they saw fit, and use them as they saw fit for labor.
Black tribes resisted the white settlers, but by the end of the 19th century, after hundreds of years of battles, most succumbed to the better armed whites. The two white tribes fought too. In 1899, the Boer War began.
Well, it created a legacy of bitterness that is unbelievable. You know, concentration camps were first designed in the Boer War. More people, more women and children, and in terms of total numbers, died in British concentration camps in the Boer War than in any of the fighting. It was an atrocious situation. They started the scorched earth policy of destroying the farms and the food to force the Boers off the land. That was the way they defeated them, and this left a legacy of hatred for the British, which is still existent.
But out of that division came a kind of unity. The Union of South Africa was formed in 1910 and almost immediately used the law to impose white domination. At the same time, what became the African National Congress was founded in 1912 as the moderate voice for black protest. But the onslaught of racist laws proceeded. The 1913 Land Act limited blacks to owning 7% of the land. Thousands of black tenant farmers were evicted, forced to sell their tools and livestock. Unable to support their families and needing to pay taxes, more black men headed to the cities to find work. The 1923 Native Urban Areas Act ruled blacks could only be in white areas to serve white needs. Blacks could not live, work or travel in those areas without a passbook.
This is a document about the size of your passport, that at age 16, boy or girl, you had to carry it and produce it on demand by an authority. Now, I was jailed, I cannot tell you how many times, because I just refused to carry that document.
It took World War II to change the balance as whites went to war with the Allies and blacks took their jobs. By 1946, blacks outnumbered whites in the cities.
What happened during World War II was, in fact, a loosening up of those restrictions. The mass movement of Africans into the cities, taking up new jobs in manufacturing, the reduction in the enforcement of past laws, blacks taking over white jobs as whites went off to fight the war, massive squatter camps emerging in the cities, politicization occurring. All of that scared whites. And in the 1948 election, what you see is this fear being manifested in a vote for a nationalist party which came in under the banner that we're going to set back the clock. We're going to push this back to what it was before the war.
So in 1948, the National Party was in power, committed to imposing apartheid. When we return to why racism becomes the law of the land, the story of apartheid, we'll look at why it lasted so long and what caused its fall.